Hi guys, welcome to another insightful episode of the Millennial Talk Show, where we talk about issues that affect millennials and how to deal with them. Yes, it's another week, and I'd like to say a big thank you to all our viewers, all those who are always following us on our social media platforms and watching our episodes. Well, today we're going to be talking about something interesting and of course something that affects not just us as millennials, but Nigeria in general. Today we're going to be looking at fixing the broken education system in Nigeria. Well, according to the International Center for Investigative Reporting, the percentage of Nigeria's total annual budget for education from 2020 to 2022 has been between 5.62%, 5.68%, and 4.30% respectively. Now, I could say that the education system isn't given uttermost priority in Nigeria. Don't you agree? Well, I believe everyone agrees. Now, although I would like to focus on these figures, I believe that this is just the tip of the iceberg of the problems with the education system in Nigeria. Now, the question is, what is the problem with our education system in Nigeria? Where does the problem stem from? Is it with the infrastructure, the government, or is it the education system itself? Or does it have to do with the product of the education system, or does it boil down to parenting? Now, why would I say parenting? Because the future leaders are the ones who are led by their parents to the schools. So it's kind of a circle and it goes on and on. Well, as usual, I will not be having this conversation alone. I have a special guest here with me, but before then, let's take a quick commercial break. When we're back, we'll be diving right into it. Don't go anywhere.
There is time for everything. It doesn't matter if it's food, work, hobbies, or just life. Millennials are always on the go, trying to make things happen. Millennial Talk, enlightening and supporting millennials on finance and growth for personal development. Join us on Millennial Talk every Thursday by 10 a.m. Start developing yourself today.
All right, guys, we are back. Now, like I said, I'm not going to be having today's conversation alone. I have an expert in the house to share more knowledge with me on today's subject. And it's none other than Professor Effiong Johnson of the Theatre Arts Department of the University of ASUU. Thank you for joining us on the show, sir. Please give us a brief introduction of yourself.
My name is Effiong Johnson. I'm a professor of theater, communication, and film studies in the University of ASUU, Akwa Ibom State. I studied theater in the University of Calabar, first degree. I was the best graduating student from Cross River State. And I went in to study Arts of the Stage and the Media in Ibadan, and a PhD in Performance Theories and Practice. And I've been practicing theater in the university for a long time. I've been a professor since 2005 on a full chair, but I entered the professional cadre in 2001. I am the first professor of theater arts from Cross River State and Akwa Ibom State, respectively.
Wow.
And I am the first professor of theater arts to a full chair by the University of ASUU.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for that introduction and insight into your person. So the first question on the table today, as you know, we're discussing fixing the broken education system in Nigeria, and every not just people who have been students in universities or in the system, but also as lecturers and the likes. So where do you think the problem with having such a broken system in Nigeria is rooted? What do you think is the root cause of our problem when it comes to education in Nigeria?
Education in Nigeria has been broken, as you have said. Everyone knows it, from primary school to the tertiary level.
Yes.
The major reason is that the government of Nigeria has not prioritized education. It has not. It has never met the basic vote prescribed by United Nations or World Bank or even African nations on education. Nigeria has never met the vote. It has never met it at any time. So education has been relegated to the background role in civility, despite its role in national development. That's why we have all the broken infrastructure in education. Secondly, Nigeria prefers, it appears now that it would prefer to give out education to private hands. It appears so, like they have given many other things to private enterprises, private running. They have privatized almost everything. Otherwise, you can explain why the ratio right now is that Nigeria has about 54 federal universities, getting to about 100 private universities.
Right.
Currently standing. And if you want to see good infrastructures, you go to private universities.
Private universities, correct.
If you come to federal universities, go back to the universities you attended, and you see the vivid realities of decay and depreciation, which are manifestations of government's neglect as far as education is concerned.
Right.
So those are the factors predominantly that make education depreciate and decay to the status that it is now.
Correct. I agree with you on that. But from my own perspective, I'm thinking is it due to lack of knowledge of what could be better for the nation as regards education? I mean, there's a status quo we're supposed to meet, like you said, and we don't even meet that criteria. And then, we have more and better infrastructures, which is supposed to be even in government facilities compared to the private. And, it's like, a reverse in this case. I mean, do you think is as a result of not having enough knowledge of the importance of good education?
It is not a function of lack of knowledge. It is not a function of ignorance. As I said, it's a function of mispriorities.
Mispriorities, right.
Mispriorities.
Yeah.
Of course, everybody knows the value of education. Education is responsible for the enlightenment of the human mind.
Of course.
Without education, we cannot have anything done. But government has not yet grappled with that reality, with the degree of emphasis that it demands.
Right.
And so, even though they seem to know and seem to appreciate it happening elsewhere, they don't put the resources down to achieve it in Nigeria.
In Nigeria. That's 100%.
It's a function of mispriority or no priority at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's move on to the next question. So do you think society itself has a major role to play in the quality of education in the Nigerian system, the quality of the Nigerian education system? Do you think that we as the society who attends these schools, or the parents who put their kids in these schools, do you think they have a role to play to the reason why education is this terrible in Nigeria?
Yes, my dear. Education is a function of society.
Definitely.
And every society demands a particular mode of education that is responsible for their well-being.
For your well-being.
And development.
Right.
So it is integral. But society in Nigeria, sorry to say, sometimes looks adrift. Society seems adrift, and they don't want to look at what matter with it. Of course, education is basically responsible for societal development.
Right.
The knowledge acquired in school, in fact, every society depends on education to produce manpower.
Right.
Development of resources and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
That is how integral, how related society ought to be. But a lot of things have decayed, morally decayed in Nigeria. Can you imagine parents who should know the value of education of their children, rather preferring to cheat all through the levels for their children, paying for machineries to write exams for their children,
right?
Giving money for their children to go and write exams in prepaid centers, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So society has a lot to play. Okay, read these days, I read in the papers, teachers that attempt to discipline children, parents go to such schools to fight the teachers, and so on and so forth. So society has to come to terms with the fact that education matters. Education is needful for the empowerment of men and women in society, for them to get out and stand on their own and apply the knowledge acquired in school. The parent society should make sure everyone that has access to any course of study in the university sits down to allow that study or the university pass through the person for necessary equipping, for necessary empowerment, for necessary know-how, so that they could go out there and put such knowledge to use. Society should, by that understanding, ensure that government does the needful in the provision of infrastructure. Imagine me, I am a visitor, as I said, to Shuana University in South Africa. When I go there to meet my same students in a class of 40, there are 40 cameras.
Wow.
The university pays for students to hire experts for their experiments, so that they are trained from the industry perspective of needs. Now I come back to Nigeria and I teach the same course in Nigeria in a class of 100 people with 2 cameras.
Wow.
What do you expect would be the output? What would we expect would be the level of competitiveness between the university here and the university there? And don't forget that the university is supposed to be a universality, where standards run in everywhere. If a wild wind picks you on the streets of Nigeria, drops you on the streets of Japan, and you meet your peers, you should be able to talk at the same level with them. But that is not the situation. Society has to cry out. They have to say what should be said to improve the structure of education. Parents have to do what they should do to make their children stay in school and read.
Correct.
So society has a whole lot to do for education to take the shape it ought to take in Nigeria.
I agree with you 100%. And I also believe that, the level of education we have here is definitely impacting the quality of people that we are producing and letting into the society. Well,
definitely.
Yes. Let's move on to the next question. As a seasoned professor of theater arts, are you not worried about the actions of ASUU, the ASUU strike ongoing? It's endless, honestly. It ends today and begins tomorrow. And what do you think the impact will be if these continue in the education system in Nigeria, especially now when we have a lot of people eloping to find very conducive environments, like you had mentioned earlier, for education? What do you think, continuing this strikes? I understand the reason why they're doing it. I understand what the changes they are trying to make, but at the same time, what do you think are the impacts in the education system?
I am an unrepentant ASUU member.
Yeah.
And I have paid prices for it. I have served my union in different capacities, and I've been arrested many times by the SSS.
Wow.
Because of the concerns of ASUU.
Wow.
Now, let me put it to you that if ASUU has not been fighting, as it were, to sustain the university, our federal universities would have been shut down for years by now.
Wow.
That put it in capital letters, I said so. What remains, the skeletal things that seemingly remain in all Nigerian universities, federal universities, come as a product of the fight ASUU has been waging for structural renovations, for structural replacements of things. Take, for example, my department here in Uyo. We have lost about 10 senior staff in the past 10 years, either through retirement or death or resignation. We have not had one yet replaced.
Wow.
In every department, especially with the so-called thing that had just been introduced by the federal government. Okay?
Wow.
So, ASUU has, if you study the demands of ASUU is not demanding their enrichment. It's not demanding for the enlargement of their pockets. Let's say the average professor in the university, no professor in Nigerian university earns up to 500,000 as I'm talking to you now. Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
Whereas some teachers in colleges of education and the polytechnic earn up to 800,000. Are you aware of that? Are you aware of that?
Wow, I'm speechless at this point.
Giving this information. Then, federal government, each time ASUU will get into a negotiation table with them, will agree on basic things and stipulate the specific times for implementation. ASUU will agree as gentlemen and intellectuals that they are and come back believing that government was going to do their bidding as promised. And government will deliberately violate all the agreements, violate the terms, the dates, the time. And also, there is no ASUU strike that has been embarked on that the necessary provisions from labor law has not been observed. There is none. ASUU is a union of intellectuals.
Right.
For your information, it's about the only functional union in this country right now. Every other union has been compromised by government. Now, if you had a father that you had issues with, and you came to terms, and the father agreed, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and it's recorded down, and the time came across, and the father deliberately pretended not to have said what he said, not to have written down what he wrote down, not to have signed what he signed, what would you do?
Definitely rebel.
That has been the predicament of ASUU. But I put it to you that ASUU always exhausts every necessary step in the labor provisions before embarking on a strike as the last resort. ASUU doesn't jump the gun. It just says, government, you have not done this. This particular strike as we are having now, every step was taken. Announcements, reminders, government is what you ought to have done. The time has since come and passed. You have not done it. We are going to do this. And that time came. They didn't do it. The next step was taken till it climaxed in the strike.
Right.
It is the process. We have exhausted we cannot be faulted in the processes before embarking on a strike.
Yes,
that is why if they call off that strike, they have to pay us our dues because we did not falter.
Definitely.
That is what obtained. And I pity the students. But you see, there is nothing we can do. Like the scenario I painted before you, our laboratories, our studios, our electric, and so on and so forth. The people are not paid their dues, the salaries are not, all kinds of things. All these have to be looked into and compromise appropriately to bring that sanity to the system.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope that it comes to a place of compromise and we can resolve these issues as soon as possible so we can move forward. I hope so. I hope so.
As we have given government up to May to do what they ought to do, negotiate and get to a compromise, then May, that compromise, if attainable, would make the strike to be called off.
Okay,
but
amazing.
If May comes,
it may come. Okay. Well, we hope that it's the positive side then. We should hope that it's positive. Yes.
We hope so.
So
don't forget that the universities in Ghana were shut down for 2 years until government decided to do something about it.
Yes. Yes.
And then now Nigerians are rushing to Ghana.
Well, let's hope for the better. Well, for the last question for today, what are your final words on this subject matter, on how Nigeria can move forward with education, how we can fix this broken education system? Now, I'm not just talking about one side, all sides. You've mentioned some of the things that, the roles that the society can play. You've also said, the things that government can do. But do you have any final words to put out there, something you might have not said yet?
My final word is this, namely, ASUU is a passionate stakeholder
in the educational system in Nigeria. No other person knows the system better than us.
Definitely.
And they should be listened to. If government could just listen to ASUU and implement their humble recommendations for the well-being of the educational system in Nigeria, things will work out accordingly. That's another word.
Right. Well, thank you very much for joining me on the show, and thank you for all the insights that you have shared. And like we both said, we do hope that things turn out for the better, because we do know that Nigeria has potentials and very bright people, but we hope that the government cooperates to make the country a better place for us all. Thank you very much for being on the show with me.
My pleasure. God bless you.
All right. Have a lovely day. All right, guys, you have heard it all. And like we have said so far, we pray for the positives when it comes to the education system in Nigeria. And that's all we'll have for you today on the show. But if you would like to find out more of the financial markets and personal finance, you can visit our website, www.proshareng.com. Keep watching. Till next week.